Hey everybody, it's Rory from A&S Gear, and today we're going to learn how to do some general maintenance on your paintball markers. Alright, so we're looking at a 2011 Kaos pump right here. We'll do a quick breakdown, kind of go through it. A lot of it's going to be the same as the other Azodin stuff. Just the pump system obviously is what's going to be a little bit different on here, but the frame setup, the hammer, striker, regulator, it's all the same through most of their guns. So we'll go ahead and pull it apart, take a look at it. So let's get everything off that we don't need right now. Don't need the barrel. Take that off. We can get the bolt out. We can get that out of the way here. We can, let's do the frame. Yeah, that sounds good. Actually, we're going to take off the ASA off the frame. We can disconnect that. Put that over to the side. Take the regulator off. Now, because this gun is a mechanical gun, you should really never have any issues with the frame itself. There is no gas or air that runs through the frame, and there's no electronics in it, so it is rare that you actually would have an issue inside there. I guess it's still possible, but I think I've maybe seen one or two ever have a problem inside there, so I wouldn't worry about it. You can leave that front screw in. You don't need to take it out all the way to get the frame off. Once we're here, let's go ahead and take the pump arm and handle off. I'm going to just undo this a little bit. We don't need to take it all the way off, I don't think. Here we go. Now, don't forget you have a spring inside of there. You don't want to lose that. If you lose that spring, your pump handle won't return, and you'll kind of just be stuck. Once you have that off, the pump handle off, you can pull the pump arm right out the side. Seeing as though it's only one-sided, it doesn't have the dual rod like the KP3, you can just slide it right out and put it to the side. Now, to get this front section off right here, you do need to, I believe, take out this vertical ASA. So let's take it out and let's see if it's attached to that or not. Could be, could not be. It is not attached to it. So let's see if it kind of just slides right out. Oh, you know what it is? I'm sorry. It just was, since this gun has been in inventory, it didn't want to pop out. Typically, you take that spring or the screw out of the vertical ASA, or you take the vertical ASA off like we did. This thing will pop forward just under the pressure of the spring from the poppet inside there. But it didn't, so I didn't think that it was. But I can definitely see now that it is. So let's take that out. Running out of space here. Okay, we've got this off. Really, the only thing left to take apart would be the internals. But we are going to take the eye covers off. And I say eye covers. It's kind of a misnomer right there. They are detent covers that look like eye covers. This gun doesn't actually have eyes, so there is not an eye cover. This just holds the detent in place. The detent is the device that keeps the ball from double feeding or allowing more than one ball in the breech at a time. So if you do have issues with double feeding, or you have issues with the loader pushing balls harder into the gun and getting more than one in at a time, check the detents. They can go bad. Now you can see this detent right there, how it's kind of shaped funny. It's sticking off to the side. That is very typical of a gun like this, because when this gun is in the resting position, or it is in the non-used position, like it's just sitting in your bag or something like that, the bolt's always in the forward position. because the pump handle has the spring and it drags the bolt forward with it. So the bolt at rest is always pushing the detent over. It's always smashing it down and moving it out of the way so that the bolt can slide through. So if a gun sits like that for a long time, it's going to naturally bend these detents over and cause them to be facing one direction all the time. There's a way to counteract that. You just take them out and you put them in the opposite direction. You spin it around and put it in there. So when the bolt rides through, it pushes the detent the other direction and it'll straighten itself back out again. But it can also get to the point where it's just brittle or it cracks it and then it doesn't work anymore. The longer it sits, the more likely that you'll have an issue with it down the road. So, that being said, just be careful of that. When those get weak and they fall over, they will not work as well anymore. Let's take the back apart. Our guy in there, bolt spring or hammer spring, hammer, striker, whatever you want to call it. And then all that's left inside now is the valve. So let's take the valve retainer out. And then we can slide our valve forward. And use a pick to do that. You can use a pick and push this forward. I would not recommend then sticking the pick down in there and monkeying around with the O-rings. You can take a pen like that, put it through, put it in the hole where the poppet would ride through, and you can just push it out. We always want to bring it out the front. Now as this comes out, I want to remind people to watch the direction that this comes out, or the side that comes out. So when we go to put this back together, we want to make sure we put it in this way. We do not want to put it in this way. It will not work properly. And the reason that is because the poppet, the cup seal, whatever you want to call it, needs to seal against the valve. And you can see in this particular setup, it seals perfectly against the front of the valve, the face of the valve right there. If I turn this around and put it on here, you see that it does not seal properly. You can see there's a gap right there. The air will get by there. It will leak consistently down the breech, down the feed neck, or out the back. So it's very important that we put that together properly. Talking about leaks, if you have a leak coming from the barrel, the feed neck, or out the top, this section back here, if you pull the bolt out and you're just listening and it sounds like air is coming out, these are your culprits right here. So either your cup seal, which is this white Delrin piece right here, or the valve itself is bad in some way. So this needs to seal this way. If this does not make a good seal, this white face right here against the valve, then the air that is building up in this chamber right here, which is going to be used to shoot the ball, can escape or get by, and it'll actually go down inside there and then find its way out of the valve and either up through the top right here, or it can come out the back a little bit here. So that's why you'll hear it leaking. If these pieces are not sealing, you'll get a leak out of here. Same thing can happen if one of these O-rings goes bad, and it's usually this O-ring right here. So if this O-ring goes bad, air can get up around the top of it, wherever, and then come up through the valve or out the back as well. So you get a leak there. You won't see, I mean, this one could fail, but air can't get to this O-ring until it has gotten past this O-ring. So usually this isn't even something that you'd worry about. You change the cup seal out, you change the valve out, the valve body, or you change this front O-ring out. And that will cause any leaks through the breech to be solved. Because it is a pump gun and you are doing the cycling yourself, there's no O-ring on the striker or the hammer, whatever you want to call it. So you can't ever get that fluttering noise. So that's not an issue that you would need to worry about in this gun. Other leaks that you could run into, if you get a leak from the bottom right here, in between the regulator, which is right here, and the vertical ASA, which is right here. So if you get a leak from here, there's an O-ring on the vertical ASA, which you can replace. Simple, right there. The only other leaks that you would really come across in this particular gun would be through the regulator, or from, I guess, the ASA down here. If you get a leak out of this hole on your ASA, that's because your tank O-ring is bad. Switch out your tank O-ring. If you get a leak from your macro lines, Let's see if I can pull one apart. We'll do it this one right here. So let's say you have your line all set up and the connection right here is leaking. It is not usually because of your hose. It can be, it's rare, but usually the culprit is the O-ring that is inside the fitting. There's an O-ring in there that the hose actually goes into, which causes it to seal properly. So to get to that, you take a pair of needle nose pliers, like rounded ones like this, or something that you can get underneath the collar. And you're kind of going to just pry it up. You do not want to squeeze it because the fingers, all these little teeth that you see on here, you will crush them. So you just want to get underneath it like that and then wiggle it up. You don't want to crush it. Once you get that out, there is an O-ring that sits down inside of there. It's a size 10 O-ring, 010 70 durometer Buna O-ring, called sometimes a quick disconnect O-ring, because it's the same O-ring that is used in a quick disconnect, like at the fill station at the paintball field. Same one. So switch that out, put a little grease on it, put your collar back on, and then you should have no leaks anymore. If the hose you're using, the macro line you're using, is really, really chewed up in this area, sometimes it won't seal on the O-ring, so you'll need to replace it. But I've seen terrible looking macro line work just fine. It's usually just the O-ring that's the problem. All right, the last one would be the reg. So let's get that, take it apart. Couple turns out on the set screw. You don't need to take it all the way out. And then you should be able to spin this off. You should be able to take the collar off. And then we can pull the snap ring off. Let's see. Oh, this one will work. Once the snap ring is off, we can take the adjuster out. Now this adjuster is going to come out through the bottom. Pull it right out. So on this regulator, if you get a leak from the bottom, so coming out this bottom section where we took the snap ring out, check this O-ring on the side of the adjuster or around the adjuster. Typically this will be the cause of the problem right there. If you get a problem with the regulator not functioning properly, as in it is not charging, it's charging slow, it's over pressurizing, then you want to check the seat. Right here, the reg seat, this red piece that you see on the inside, where these two pieces come together and they make a seal, the piston and the adjuster, the reg seat right there. If this is cracked or broken or has a hole, it will do all sorts of weird stuff. So change that. If you need to change this, you need to replace the whole piece. That's not meant to be a replaceable piece inside there. Just get a new. They're cheap. And then if you have a leak from the side of your regulator, there's a tiny little pinhole right there. If you have air coming out the side, this would be your culprit right here at this O-ring. So fix this or replace this O-ring, or check it and re-grease it, or whatever you need to do to it. That will solve the problem. And then on the very, very rare chance that you have a leak coming from between these two pieces right here, that O-ring at the top is going to be the problem. That one usually never goes bad. I say never. It has happened. All right, so let's put it back together. Yeah, this way. Like that. Got our adjuster in. Let's put our snap ring back in place. Put our collar on. We've already got our piston and our spring in there. We can go ahead and screw. Woo! We can throw them on the floor. Then we can screw them together. When we set up this regulator, we do not want to tighten it all the way together and then tighten the screw down, because it is possible to make the swivel not work anymore. So this swivel will not turn anymore because these two pieces are all too tight. So once we get this set up, or to set it up properly, I should say, we want it to the point where we can adjust this. We want to go till we feel it hit, so we're snug right now. And then we're going to turn about a quarter turn back. We're going to tighten it down. We're going to make sure that our swivel works now. And we want to go all the way around. No resistance, nothing like that. Then we want to check for up and down play. There's a little bit of play on this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back this off a little bit, and I'm going to tighten it back a little bit further. And then I'm going to re-tighten the screw. And then I'm going to check again for swivel is good, goes all the way around. I'm going to check for up and down play, much less than it was before. We should be good. If there's too much play between the swivel, it will leak. So, and if there's not enough play, it won't spin. All right, gun back together. Valve first. Remember to do it the right way. We have 2 holes on our valve. Well, we have 1 hole really. 1 hole right here where the gas is going to come up and go into the bolt, and then 1 hole which has a bottom to it, which is where the valve retainer screw is going to go. So we need to make sure that that hole where the screw is going to go into it and hold it in place is facing up. In this particular instance, it's actually facing down because this is the bottom of the gun. It's going to be like this. So it's facing up towards us right now. So we're going to push that in. I'm going to use our pen, and we're going to push that through. We'll see it right there. That was the O-ring that went by, and then that's the little slot that it needs to sit in. So we're going to make sure that that's lined up, and then we're going to put our plug in. We put the plug in. We want to go down to where we feel it hit the valve, like that, and then we want to stop. We do not need to tighten it down and crank it down. By pushing that or tightening it down really, really hard, you actually can move the valve on the inside and push the valve against the inside of the body and cause a leak. So we don't want to do that. Or the stem that sticks through the valve will be off center just because the valve's smashed inside of there. So don't do that. Let's put our front together. So this is our pump guide, so our guide handle, and also this is the stabilizer. So you can see this part right here runs into the bottom section of our, or this, actually I should say this section down here, which causes it to not want to have side-to-side slop, which is good. So we're going to hold this in place, looking for the screw hole in there, so that we can then put the vertical ASA and mount that together. Now I found that I can see I've got my finger in there and I'm holding the screw in place so that the screw doesn't fall out, and I'm holding the piece with my other hand. A lot of times what will happen is this O-ring will want to fall out. I'll turn this over and the O-ring drops out. You take a little bit of oil or grease and put it on the O-ring or under the O-ring, and then put the O-ring into the vertical ASA. It typically will stay in place and won't fall out. So we can do that. Put that in. Once we get to here, you can see there's still a gap because I've got my finger on the screw. I can push the ASA down and then hold it all in place with my hand and tighten the screw. Once I get that screw in and started, I can kind of relax a little bit. Then I want to make sure that this is lined up properly on there. I don't want to see it like that. You guys can see that. There we go. Make sure that everything is uniform and in line. And then hold on to it and tighten it down. We don't want it to rotate any further. Okay, got that together. We can go ahead and let's do the frame, and we'll do the whole bottom section. We'll put the pump handle on last. So we'll take our frame, make sure that the washer, you can see it. No, you can't see it. Now you can see it right there. That washer needs to sit all the way against the head of the screw and then go inside there like that. Get down there, washer. fighting me. There we go. If it doesn't want to drop in place, it might have been because I tightened that down a little bit when I took it out. So what I'm going to do is back this up just a little bit, and then it should slide on easier, which it did. Tighten down the rear, tighten down the front, and give it a little snug. Don't overdo it. All right, frame's on. We can do our regulator. And if we've set our swivel up properly, this will make it a lot easier to set this part up, because we can take our swivel, connect it, we can take our line and connect it, and then we can just move this over and connect it like this. Now if the swivel didn't move, maybe it was stuck like this would never reach. So it's proper to have your swivel correctly set up so that you can do your line setup nice and easy. I'm going to get one in and get it started. Then I'll take my other one, get it in there as well, start it. We can go all the way down, and tighten. Okay, almost done. Let's get our eye covers on with our detents. So I'm going to try to fit these detents in the opposite direction that they were before, so that they will start to move or lay in the other way, so they don't wear improperly. There. Yeah, that's the wrong side. So we'll take that one, put it on there. Hold the cover, tighten it down. Same thing for this one, going in the opposite direction as I took them out. All right, now we're ready to assemble the rest of the gun. So this one's going to have a particular order that we're going to want to do it in. I would not recommend putting in the hammer, the bolt, the spring guide, or anything until we've got the pump arm attached and the pump guide, or pump arm and guide, and sled already on the gun. So let's put this one on first. Remember, there's a spring. Don't lose it. If you turn it upside down, it will fall out. Let's do, it's going to go like this. Like that. Remember, we've got 3 holes on here. We've got the main guide, the stabilizer, and then the pump arm. So this one right here is always going to go into the one that has the screw on it. We can take our sled, which is the back part, and just drop it in from the side. We can then slide it forward and connect it to the front. We want to make sure that it does go all the way in, because this groove that you see right here is where this set screw needs to go in and rest inside there. So make sure we push it all the way in. If you don't have this screw all the way out, or maybe you've accidentally turned it and it only goes in like this far, that's not going to help you. You want to make sure that it does drop all the way in, and then you can tighten it down. Perfect. Now we can go ahead and assemble the back parts in. With the striker, we're going to go and put it in, and first we're going to do the first step, or first section into the gun. To get the striker in, you do need to put pressure on it and then pull the trigger to move the sear out of the way. But it does it in 2 steps. It'll drop in, and then it will drop in even further. So we can do it 1. Now it gets stuck again. And we can do 2, and it will go all the way up to the front where it was now striking the valve. We don't want to go all the way up right away. You can. I'm not going to say that it isn't possible to do, but it's going to make it much easier to set your gun up if you only go halfway. So go to the first step before you push it all the way in. So we're going to go first step, and then we're going to push it in. Oh, one thing I also want to remember or remind people, these particular guns, the sniper or the pump, the 2011 pump, has a slot cut in it on the hammer. It's all the way, runs the entire length almost of the body. And then on the other side, it has a notch cut into it. You want to make sure that the notch section faces down. This is where the sear catches, not here. It is possible to put the bolt or hammer in upside down and it will slide in further than you think. And then you might try to connect the bolt pin to that notch. The gun will not work. When the bolt pin is down, like this, it needs to ride in the notch like that. And it needs to have all of this travel in that notch in order to function properly. If it's like this, it might catch, but it's not going to work properly inside there. So don't put it in that way. Well, you really can't put it in that way. All right, so put it in. First step, right there. If I try to put the spring and bolt guide or spring guide in right now, it'll make the hammer, the striker, rotate on the inside. So we don't want that to happen yet. So we're going to take our bolt. We're going to make sure that our bolt goes through the sled and then into the slot on the hammer. If we do not get the bolt through the sled, it will not work properly. If you're behind it or in front of it, gun won't function as it should. So make sure you go through the sled and into the slot. That's why we want that slot to make sure that it's vertically up and down so that we don't run into an issue. Take then our spring. We're going to put our spring into our hammer. And we can actually push on the spring then, if we want to, and pull the trigger and it will go the rest of the way. And then we can take our guide, make sure it goes inside the spring, like that. And then we can tighten it down. Make sure everything works. Gun cocks back, comes back forward, it shoots, cocks back. Safety works. Everything seems right. Next, we would put the barrel back on. We would go ahead and gas it up and make sure that we're at velocity the way we need. Adjust the regulator. That's something you would definitely want to do by the chronograph because we did pull the reg adjuster all the way out. So we would want to make sure that we are within safe limits for the field to go out there and play. So that's a breakdown for the 2011 Kaos pump. Well guys, I hope this helps you out with any questions or concerns you have about your paintball gear or products. And as always, for all your paintball needs, shop ansgear.com.